Yeah, it's nice to be here. We've got to do something, guys. We got to wake people up.
Oh, I know it. I know it.
They're asleep.
Well, yeah, if you would,
I was just gonna sit up there.
Yeah.
Is
Yes,
that where
please.
everybody's gonna sit? Okay.
Yeah, we'll sit and face there. That'll be fine too.
yeah, let me move my little seat here.
I see there's a vending machine. Can I get you something?
That's all right. I'll go to McDonald's afterwards.
I know, but we don't need your blood sugar to crash, you know.
We definitely don't need that.
I've been working on this thing since 2 o'clock this morning and revised it 11 times. So if I sound stupid,
I have, I have the law for you. I've got to figure out what I've done.
No lock.
Okay.
I thought Connie was looking for
Hey,
Steve
there's a
Bray
flag
too.
at the Hampton, at the Ramcota.
I was looking for Steve
Oh,
Bray to
very
be here too.
good.
Yeah.
Sharp eyes.
He's a nice fellow.
Doggone it.
You can find it afterwards.
I just get mad at myself. It's like I have something. Every time I look at something, it's there, and then when I want it, I find it. Looking for the law.
I know. I wonder if it's on top of this book. It would make sense for me. My sticky fingers all over your stuff.
You just go there.
I haven't decided yet.
Oh.
What is it? The law?
Yeah, Bastiat's, Henri Bastiat, Frenchman,
Yeah.
who wrote after the Reign of Terror in the
I
French
wonder if that's what I
Revolution.
have posted on my Facebook.
And it's
Where he
very
talks about-
succinct.
Where he talks about men who live in a society of moral injustices.
That sounds familiar, I'm not sure. But,
You've read the law.
Oh, yes.
oh yeah.
I read it as a teenager.
I keep it on my Facebook.
I was probably about
That is.
15 when I read it.
Really? No wonder you're so well
Best day.
grounded.
Yes!
And I still remember his definition of right and wrong. See if
For our
does something for you. then you
guest
Oh,
today.
Yep, I love him. That is him.
That's just it.
Very good.
There you go.
And I have something else for you. Is Dana gonna run, Judy?
I think we're gonna put him up there, but it's only to piss him off.
Good.
Do you, what party are you gonna run on?
I think he's gonna go independent.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
He's always welcome to.
Would you consider running as a constitutionalist?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him. I'll ask him.
Well, in part because of what Dr. Cummings' speech will be about. I mean, I know it won't be at the state level, but still.
I know we've got, I believe her name is Jackie Anderson, and she used to be on city council. She's gonna be running.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in fact, I think this next weekend, we're gonna hold kind of a little dinner for her.
Oh, really?
Like a little meet and greet. One of the
Did
little.
she go to Alaska?
No, she's right here in town.
I heard of somebody that really stood up for the Constitution.
I think she
Renee
did for a
Beno.
little while. I don't know that much about her. Dana just brought it up to me yesterday. Him and
Really?
Fleetwood down in Cheyenne have been working on getting her to run for county commissioner. Because you know McDowell isn't going to run now. He's already shot himself in the foot too many times. He couldn't get voted for dog catcher.
He's got some other plans. I think
He
he's
wants to go
planning
back to
get
work
rich.
at that hospital and be financial advisor.
For Memorial?
Yeah, he's
Oh, I
wanting to
didn't
get back
know
at the
that.
hospital stuff bad.
Especially with Obamacare.
Uh-huh.
Now this little Constitution has flashcards in the middle of it.
Oh, cute.
So you can drill yourself.
Oh, well, I've gotten pretty familiar with this little book.
Yes.
I had to find all their holes.
I talked to Cindy Hill this week and she said,
How's she
what can I
doing?
do? Oh, they're grilling her. They're
Them jerks.
they really
Don't they
are
believe in what the
jerks.
Supreme Court said? I mean, that's the ultimate.
No, they don't.
No, they want their way.
They will get away with what they can get away with.
Taylor Haynes was on the Bold Republic yesterday afternoon, for an hour talking about all of that. So you might want to listen to that when you get home. Glenn Woods is pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
he has a little too many commercials for my taste, but I guess he's got to pay the bill somehow.
There you
So.
go.
And there's another radio station, what is it, KGLG, out of Cheyenne, I believe, that does a lot of what Plan Cheyenne is doing right now.
Oh,
They're
my word.
UDC, they're talking about the smart growth, they're talking about all of that. So it's getting pretty hot on the topics. That's why if you ever go to my Facebook page, it's news from wherever I can find it about what's going on up
Oh,
here.
good for you. Very
And
good, Judy.
I never thought I'd be an activist.
No.
Yeah,
until
none of us
until
did,
it
I don't
landed on
think.
my front door.
Well, you've heard one definition of a conservative?
Huh.
A liberal who got mugged?
Right, too. That's a fact.
Okay, Dave, can you start us in prayer?
Heavenly Father, we come to you today in thanksgiving for this place we come to meet. We ask you guidance and protection over us throughout the day, Lord. Be with each member of this group today as we each one have things to share with the others, and we ask that you lift Judy up as she comes to share with us today. Guide and direct us. Thank you for the opportunity to serve. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. So then we've got the flag
Yeah.
is.
Okay, we'll
across
use the ones
street.
across the road.
Would you lead us,
In
Doug?
front of the Ramcota Hotel.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Very good. And we have as our guest today, Judy Jones, and she's our hero. She stood up against a government that is out of control and protected all of our property rights.
Thank
So-
you, Linda.
Thank you, Judy.
Yes.
Now, is your camera recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me sit.
Good.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for inviting me to speak at this very special event and to share my story. I'll try to keep it short because you have so much to discuss today. And I really came to listen and learn more about the Constitutional Party. I am both humbled and honored by Ms. Bergeron's invitation to speak here today. I often tell people it was Linda who gave me the courage to stand up for the first time and speak at a public meeting. So thank you, my friend. Thank you all for allowing me this opportunity to share with you what I've learned in and out of our county meetings, public hearings, and courtrooms. I am Judy Jones. My husband is Dana Jones. I am a property rights activist, landowner, small business owner, mother, and wife. My husband is a good, hard-working man, and he's a pillar of this community with his random acts of kindness. And we both are getting a bad rep by the local media and officials and their dissenters. I didn't start out to be an activist like most of us never do, but I had no choice. After we were targeted by our former county commissioner, Ed Opella, and his group of faithful followers, like top developers and real estate agents and some local, very influential people, we had no choice but to fight back. On August 13, 2010, I could no longer stay out of the fight for property rights because it was not just affecting someone else anymore, it was affecting me, and it was on my doorstep. The county had decided to make us a test case in their ability to regulate a man's use of his land, and we decided to fight back. The abuses and lack of any real procedures I witnessed was firsthand when my pushing back on the commissioners. There was nothing for procedures for residents to get access to and to know how to air their grievances for zone changes, variance, land splits, non-conforming uses, also known as the grandfathered rights. That would yield anything more than lip service from our commission. And in many of the cases, nothing was in place by our local planning and zoning to even hear appeals. After 4 long years of speaking at meetings in both commissioners and planning and zoning, there is now a place in appeals process dated April 12, 2012. So we won a tremendous victory on that front. Meeting after meeting, I watched in horror people losing their zoning for favored developers the old being singled out for their quiet areas for yet more business parks, and being bullied by the commissioners to either comply or litigate at great expense to anyone who dared to buck the system. I remember one case especially that just sent me reeling. A man and his neighbors were being shoved out for yet another business park. All 5 neighbors spoke against this development and spoke with a plea to not change their zone in their quiet neighborhood to a rumbling up the road all night long of trucks and traffic. To no avail, the commissioners listened and voted it in anyway. That's when I knew this was not just about me or my use or an invasion, but an invasion of something more sinister. No longer could I keep allowing my representatives to bypass their oaths of office to protect the property owners from overregulation and unbiased and very personal agendas of some of our elected officials in their use of their offices. My husband and I worked hard to show the county officials that we were not criminals, but yet wanted justice for us as well as anyone else that will be dealing with them on the future of grandfathered use properties. Although you have heard through Casper Star Tribune portrayed as many news articles did, and the rhetoric around town, that in their eyes we were just hillbilly junk hoarders. We were degenerates because we opposed restrictions being placed on people of this country. We were anti-American, and that couldn't be further from the truth. We were mischaracterized as being just another Ed Corrigan, Stan Mundy, Sid Tolan of sorts. If you have followed any of these stories over the years, Ed fought on the constitutional grounds for his trailers out east of town, that had storage of clothing and other items he regularly donated to thrift stores. But the fact was, that was never published in the paper. He also drove for Meals on Wheels and volunteered much of his time at the senior center. Now, who would have not seen, you would not have seen any of this in the paper because he might have been able to rally more support prior to the taking of his property and land by the county for unpaid fines in excess of $290,000. They wanted people to believe he was a nutcase. Ed was not a nutcase. He simply followed the wrong advice on how to fight back against overregulated government and lost. Not because the Constitution is not good grounds to fight a case with, but rather Mr. Corrigan was not afforded the luxury of a lot of money to fight the government, and we know you're going to need cold hard cash if you do. I was truly blessed in this way. My husband has a good successful business, and we were very lucky that we had a great lawyer, the ones that don't sit downtown and have coffee with these guys every day of the week. Or we would have just become another victim of the system in place today. When I first started attending the meetings in October 2010, it was because it was personal. The county had enacted a new revision to the nuisance ordinance and storage of vehicles on your personal private property that will forever change our lives and landowners at large in rural Natrona County. That change slipped by many of us for over 10 months. It was passed on January 5th, 2010, and many folks didn't even know about it. Why, you may ask? After I got involved, we were targeted because of a neighbor complaining to anyone and everyone he could of our officials. I began to do my homework. I wanted to know everything I could know about this ordinance, what it was, who wanted it, who spoke for it, who spoke against it, and what the implications were going to be to all of us. I found out that in November 2009, it was posted for one day in the Casper Star Tribune. That is all the state requires. That they would be hearing this change in planning and zoning on nuisance standards and storage on December 9, 2009. Also printed that same day in the legal publication was the county commissioner's public hearing to be heard 60 days from November 22nd, 2009 to January 5th, 2010 of that same revision request. And that was to be the final reading and passage. 2 months in advance, one day in the paper, and nothing else was ever said again about the public meeting. I had problems with that because December 9th, planning and zoning passage, it did not have one resident from rural Natrona County there. There was no one there to speak against this item or help them carve it out more fairly. The only ones who spoke were Dick Sadler of Dempsey Acres and Linda McLarnon, Code Enforcement, both in support. Secondly, when it passed the planning and zoning, it was only 26 days before the commissioners would hear this and pass it on their commission. 45-day notices are required for public hearings, and this only had 26 days between planning and zoning passing and BOCC passing it. Third, it had posted both meetings in November 2009, so this to me was somewhat underhanded, because if you didn't get that exact November 22nd newspaper, you would not know about either of these meetings, and neither had the time time needed to give any public notice or input. That's really where it started for me. I knew then where this was leading. In actual official meetings and public hearings, while I sat there with my camcorder and many other area residents, planning and zoning tried to design a way to force us to move our vehicles off both our properties as a favor to my neighbor, from one BOCC member, Ed Opella, to Don Wolcott, my neighbor, and to make everyone else apply for collector car permits to keep theirs. It was about control of my land use, control of my home, control of my life. You can all thank several men for their contribution to even more bureaucratic red tape and restrictions on the use of your property. Too many are still in office today. After months of collecting car talks and meetings and work sessions spent on a farce of a collector car permit, it's exactly the way the commissioners wrote it today as when they wrote it the first day it was created. The only minor change that I could find was weight limits. When that failed and the collector car permits only got 4 people to sign up, the county changed its tactics. Instead of civil litigation, it became criminal, to be a nuisance. After more than 3 years of negotiations with the county, it proved fruitless for us because they had already determined we were guilty of running a junkyard in an illegal area of the 2000 zoning resolution and wanting more than $500,000 in fines. We had several meetings with the county attorney Bill Knight and Gene Wallace and the planning and zoning, and even made 3 separate offers to settle with them prior to our suit being filed. They were all refused. Our last offer prior to taking them to court was that we would decrease the number of vehicles down to 200 from 400. We would fence and screen them in to the east corner section of the 2.5 acre area and continue our cleanup, both properties. Still no good. That was in 2012. Well, guess what happened? That is substantially less than the county got in their final judgment from the Honorable Judge Sullins of the 7th Judicial Court. On January 3rd, 2014, in that final decision, we do not have to comply with current zoning. We are a grandfathered use, and the county did in fact violate our constitutional rights in 3 ways: due process, trial by jury, and a clear takings of property without just compensation. This sent shockwaves through the commissioners and county offices. The day we filed suit against the Board of County Commissioners, within 2 hours, the Code Enforcement Officer was now sitting in our attorney's office writing out citations going back over 10 years, adding up to over $500,000 in fine and 24 citations for the 2 properties we owned. We took it to district court and won on one of our properties, the 8 Mile property, and I think you'll all enjoy this. Dana Jones can keep all of his vehicles 25 years and older, and his junk is actually written in the verdict. You must understand that we were never against cleanup and made that known to every opportunity we could, but it fell on deaf ears of our current BOCC members. So this is the short version of my story, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have for me today. But I also must remind you, you can fight back, you can stand up even if your voice shakes. You must take a stand. If you, like me, you will not back down. You will back down to a point, but when you are being abused by your local office officials, you have no choice but to unseat the ones that are being the most, I messed up here, unseat, fight back by unseating the ones as we did Mr. Opella. So in closing, please take the time to read the facts and findings of my case. You can get a copy from me or have me email you one. This is some of the greatest wording in this to help you who finds himself a target on their backs. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have copies available here today, or I can give you my email?
All I need is emails, guys, and I'll email you all of them.
Okay, thank you.
It is some of the best conclusions of law, because I study law as a kind of hobby. My attorney calls me his prerequisite, what did he say? Oh, he calls me something. I'm like I'm his researcher.
There you go.
Because
Yeah.
I built our case, me, him, and Judy Easton.
Very good.
And I'll tell you, if you get in trouble, you give Harry G. Bondi. He's expensive, but he finds everything that you need to prove your case.
Were you able to get reimbursed for all these expenses?
Nope, we don't
Defend
get a
yourself?
dime back. It was a little over $220,000 it cost us. And that's kind of one of my main points on this, is they count on you not being able to pay, you know, good attorneys to do this. And to find an attorney in this town that is in some way hooked up with all of those guys is even bigger. That's why I call Bondi Barracuda, because he doesn't sit downtown and have coffee and all of that. But I mean, he's got a good rapport with them, but there's nothing
Well,
there.
one of the county commissioners asked me kind of on a off the books question in regards to Ed Corrigan before everything was settled.
Yeah.
Well, what are we supposed to do about him? I said, you should have left him alone. He said, well, now the county has all of these cleanup bills. And I said, if you had left him alone, the county wouldn't have had any cleanup bills.
If they would have, I know.
If you would have left him alone, which is the role of government, he was doing you no harm.
Yep.
And it was almost as if he didn't even consider that government's role is to do nothing.
There's
a person takes office and thinks they have to do something.
There's a homeowners association located very close to Corrigan's property.
Is there?
And I was sitting in a work session when they were discussing what they were gonna do with him. And, there was a gal, I'll leave her nameless, but her first name was Terry, and she's the one that seeks code enforcement on him. Nobody else had complained, nobody gave a shit,
No.
you know? The
No.
man wasn't hurting anybody, he was a good guy.
Yeah.
He used to come to Albertsons all the time, you know, and get bread, and we spoke often. But boy, I'll tell you, when I stood up there and watched them auction off his property, I'd never seen a more broken man in my life. They broke him, you know. And John Taylor, as you know, we've lost him
Oh, no.
about, what, 8 months ago now.
John died?
Yeah, John died,
Oh, I hadn't-
heart attack. But they were talking about what they were going to do. They thought it was funny. I mean, they were actually joking about his property, and I had to get up and go smoke a cigarette
Yeah.
because I was fixing to cut loose.
Yeah. Oh,
You know, you guys think this is a joke, how about we come after you?
Well, yeah. Well, I think I'm going to really take note of that. What the definition of a conservative is a liberal who's been loved.
Uh-huh, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got that on audio. Anybody else?
So how is this gonna affect code enforcement now?
Okay, well, code enforcement now they actually have a new director. His name is Jason Gutierrez. Seems like an all right kind of guy from what I'm getting from him, because we just did a meeting with him and Gene Wallace a couple of weeks ago on our CUP for the other property. He's very much a McDowell man, so he's really listening to what County Commissioner McDowell tells him to do. They're trying to figure out a way right now to deny me the conditional use permit out there, because they want me to move my cars. It offends Hendry. He drives past it every day, you know.
Oh, I
so-
bet it does.
He flies over it every day, however he gets into town. But Terry Wingert stopped down last Tuesday and spoke to my husband and said that to put this thing to bed, if I would shut my mouth, they would give us the CUP.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. So you have a new planner. He seems like a pretty good guy. Gene Wallace, he's been demoted once more. Now he's just a planner. He's no longer a director. I know it was like this hat thing, you know. This week Knight is director of planning. No. This week it's Gene Wallace. No. This week it's someone else. They had no process, and I stayed on them. I mean, I stayed at these meetings, and I'm going, you know what, guys? If somebody comes in here and they need to appeal something, you need to have a process. You know, you put your code enforcement guy up there. It's called Robert's Rules of Procedures, and if you'd like, I'd bring you a copy of it. Okay, well now they're going by it. Got this whole new standard. They're trying, guys. They really are. But
Okay.
I still think we need to change out our commissioners. They've been in office
Yeah.
way too long.
Yeah.
And Mead's got to go too. I hate to say that.
Oh, no,
but
he does. I don't
it's
need to
just-
say that. I didn't want him there in the first place.
Anything else? Go ahead. I love to talk. So
Well, we are grateful, Judy.
thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
Thank you very much.
you for making the time.
Oh, anytime.
Especially for all the meetings you go to.
And our next speaker is Dr. Cummings, and he's going to just give us some instruction and some of his wisdom that he's learned over many, many years of good government.
Where's this good government we've had for so many years?
That you know about that we're not following.
I haven't seen good government.
I'm thinking 70s.
What?
I'm thinking the 70s. A pretty good run there for a while before our automotive
Well-
industry got killed.
I started to see the world as it is in 1961. And I haven't seen good government since then.
Oh, geez.
That's more than 50 years. I was 14 years old when I became very enlightened as to the direction of the country that has been downward. One of the early things I read was The Law by Frederick Bastiat. It's been passed around here a little. Any of you who have not read it should do so. I still remember clearly the definition of abusive government that Bastiat gave around 1849. See if the government does something for a person that he cannot do for himself without committing a crime. That describes the whole welfare state, I think. The government doing for people things they could not do in the marketplace for themselves without committing robbery, extortion, murder,
Theft.
embezzlement, or some kind of crime. Crimes mostly against property. The classical liberals of a few centuries ago, where liberal meant the opposite of what it means today. Liberal once meant liberty. There were three great human rights: life, liberty, and property. For good and bad reasons, Thomas Jefferson changed that to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in the Declaration of Independence. I'm not sure that that was a wise change. He intended property. The signers intended property. Modern interpreters who want to overthrow what the Declaration was about try to exclude property from the pursuit of happiness. But it's one of the fundamental rights. In a sense, it's nothing more or less than the extension of the right of life, because we use our lives in the marketplace to create that which we exchange to others for what we need in a marketplace where we have great division of labor, where we all specialize. I specialize in human bodies. Some people specialize in car bodies, vehicle bodies. Others raise food, others make clothing. And we trade these products with one another for the betterment of us all. As we turn our lives into property, we trade the time of our lives, the labor of our lives, the efforts of our lives into property. We have as much right to that property as we have to life itself. It is, in the material part of the world, the non-spiritual part of our world, it is what we make of our lives. My home, my land, my vehicles are the temporal part of what I have done with my life, as it is with yours, your homes, your land, your clothing, whatever you have, whatever you own, hopefully was obtained by free exchange in the marketplace. If so, you have a right to it.